is going on, everybody? And welcome back in. The Jets Roundtable is back because this is unfortunately the time for us Jets fans, the offseason, all right? We got Jake Asman, we got Ryan, we got Matt O'Leary. We're really excited to launch the Jets Roundtable back on Roundtable Sports on the AFC East YouTube channel. This show is being powered by BetUS. Make sure you guys go check them out by using the code YouTube150. Without further ado, let's bring in the suspects, man. Look at these guys. Ryan, Matt, Jake. We're back, and I promise you, next year at this time, we're not talking about no coaches or GMs. We're talking about the playoffs. Come on, man. I'm sick of this stuff. I don't care if I'm delusional. I'm sick of talking about this. I want to talk about the Jets in the playoffs, but that's not where we are. We got to accept our fate, all right? Ryan, Matt, Jake, great to have you back. Ryan, how you doing today, bro?
Feeling good. Glad the season's over. Ready to get back into our actual season, which is the off season, talking mock drafts, talking prospective head coaches, GMs, all that good stuff. So it's the season of hope, if you will.
The season of hope, man, and that's wild to hear. Matt, how you doing, man? Great to see you, bro.
I'm excited to be back, and boy, do we have a lot of names to get to. This list just keeps growing day by day for both the GM and head coach, both lists in double digits, so excited to break it down with my guys.
Jake, did you get an interview request to be the GM, or did you not? How you doing, Jake?
I should. I mean, they're seemingly requesting anybody out there, except Gruden, Pete Carroll, and some of the other guys that I thought would make a lot of sense, like even Liam Cohen and Todd Monken. But no, I was not requested. Somehow Mike Loxley was, though, so I don't know. I just pray they get it right, because I'm so sick and tired of just having to make the jokes that we all do about kings of the offseason and this is our time. Like, I grew up same age, similar to you guys, when the Jets were going to the playoffs a lot when we were, kids in the 2000s and whatnot. So I'm just so sick of it, man. They have to get it right.
Yeah, they do got to get it right, man. We felt like everybody wanted Saleh at the time, at least I did. And I love Joe Douglas, and I felt like that was going to be the pairing for the next decade plus. And we're back to square one. We knew heading into this season, if it was a failure, everybody was on the hot seat, and Woody Johnson decided to fire everybody in the middle of the season. So before we get into these head coach and GM search, let's do a quick little season recap and just like where your minds were at this season and like how you can spark some type of hope, because Ryan said the word hope. So Ryan, why should we have hope? Everyone's upset. Everyone hates the Johnsons more than we ever have. I mean, we had all this talent go to waste. Like, why should we be hopeful for the future? Because you know me, I try to find hope as much as I can. But Ryan, please let us know why.
Well, as far as
Sorry
the
to put you on the
goes,
spot like that.
As far as the owner stuff goes, there is like, I understand the fan base being a little frustrated. From a hopeful perspective, glass half full kind of mentality, I'm looking at Will McDonald having 10-plus sack season, looking at Olu, seemingly the new left guard for the next decade plus, hopefully. And then, other guys just having success across the team. Obviously, Garrett has his third 1,000-yard season. That's really exciting to see. I know there's, the little rumors and hiccups that we hear throughout, but I think there's positives overall. And going into next season, it seems like we at least have 4 of our 5 offensive linemen figured out and one that we could return on a contract. So I'm feeling a little hopeful. I'm not going to get my expectations wildly high for next season, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I think that's the big positives of this past season that you can definitely bring up. Will McDonald, double-digit sacks. Olu seems like he could be the franchise left tackle if he can stay healthy, of course. And there's some core guys that we can build around. But the big question lies of not just the head coach and the GM, the quarterback position, which we'll get into in this show. Matt, what was your overall thoughts of this season? Now it's officially wrapped up. We win 5 games, and now we have the 7th pick, man. So what was your thought process of this season in a nutshell?
Yeah, I think even in the biggest Jets haters' mind, a season like this wasn't even considered. It was somehow worse than anyone could have ever guessed. But if you're going to look at some positives here, Ryan mentioned a lot of good ones with, Olu Fashanu as a long-term answer at tackle, and, Garrett Wilson continuing to be a stud, and Will McDonald having a breakout. And, I'll throw another name in there too. I know he's a free agent, but Jamie Sherwood, I thought, had a really nice season. Might be someone who is looking to come back. And I think the thing with a new GM and new head coach coming in here, yeah, there's definitely question marks at both ownership and the quarterback because we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. But there are some things to like on this team. And I think there is some foundational pieces that if you get this next hire right for GM and head coach, they could have a big step forward next year.
How about you, Jake? What else can you add on to the top that your overall recap of the 2024 season?
That it's over. I mean,
Whew.
it's the worst Jets season ever. And if you really think about it, the last 2 years have been the worst 2 seasons I think ever. Last year, because of the false hope, 4 plays in, it's all out the door. And then this year, I mean, just to win 5 games and really be eliminated before Halloween, if you think about it. I mean, this team was 2-6 going into that game against the Texans that they ended up winning on Halloween, but still, I mean, it's just it was a nightmare. It can't be any worse. I mean, the expectations automatically are going to be lower next year, but it really kind of ruined my love of football for a while. Like, it was tough to watch other games. It was tough to get excited about anything. It was brutal, and it was so magnified too because of all the primetime games they had front loaded. So as they're losing, everyone is getting their shots off, and rightfully so, at the Jets. But it was a nightmare, man. I mean, at least it's over, and there is hope because of some of the things that Ryan and Matt talked about. And you look at a team like the Lions; they were a dumpster fire. Washington, the Texans, the Chargers a year ago. You can turn it around if you get the right people in charge, and we got to hope that the Jets do that.
Yeah, man, I agree with everything you guys said. And personally, this season, I mean, I've been covering the Jets for now 5 or 6 years, and I feel like this season was the first time I was ever broken. I mean, I feel like we've lost. We've not made the playoffs every year I've been covering the Jets, and I'm sure you guys started covering the Jets during the playoff drought as well here on YouTube. And this was the first year where I felt like I literally lost it, and like I became a new person. And now I'm known as the rant guy, and I'm getting recognized like, oh, you're the guy that does Jets rants. I'm like, damn. That's not what I want to be known for. I'm usually the positive guy, but the Jets actually like just punched me in the face, just like they punched every single Jets fan in the face, because I think the big difference of this season opposed to the previous seasons is the expectations were so high. And also we were healthy. Like usually it's like, 2 years ago, Rodgers got hurt. We have an excuse. Or the offensive line was injured. These injuries, we were healthy on offense. Defense, of course, had some injuries, but our quarterback was healthy. All the playmakers were healthy. Our offensive line was pretty much healthy, and we still won 5 games. The reasons for that is a different conversation. I think that's what was the most frustrating part for me personally, and the way we lost the games in the fourth quarter. I mean, we lost 5 games when we had the lead going into the fourth quarter. So it was just a brutal season, and I'm hopeful, and I said this multiple times, that it's only up from here, right? I mean, is that delusional to think that it's only up from here? We can't go any further down? Please.
I've been saying that every friggin' year. It can't get worse than that. It gets worse. I'm not saying it. I'm not doing it.
Oh, dude, it can't get worse than this, man. I really find it hard to believe. I really do. I mean, this was like brutal. And I think the reason why I say it can't get worse is because now Jets fans are never going to get their expectations as high as it was heading into last season, right?
I agree. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think partway through the season, the love of watching the Jets, and especially with all the Woody Johnson stuff coming out, it's like, man, until this guy sells, like, it feels like we're going to be stuck in this cyclical BS, like, we're using Madden ratings or whatever it is to figure out players. It's a clown show. So at this point, I'm embracing the entertainment. Clown cars open. Come on in. I'm good with it. Don't care. Just entertain me. That's all.
Yeah.
Forget wins. I don't care.
And that's why some people, we'll get into the head coach candidates, but some people are like, yeah, who cares? We're always going to suck. Let's bring in Rex Ryan. At least we're entertaining, right? I'm like, I don't want that to be the energy behind it. But listen, we'll get into the head coaching search and the GM search. Guys, if you're tuning in right now on the AFC's Roundtable YouTube channel, this is the Jets Roundtable. We're back in action. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. We appreciate everybody tuning in right now. That is live. We got Jake Asman, Matt O'Leary, and Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7. We see everybody in the chat. Jake, you're spitting the truth, man. Look at that. Jay-Z Jets fan loves you. All right, what's up, Jets family? Long ass season. Oh, that's for sure, man. We appreciate everybody that is tuning in. So the first topic I want to get into with you guys, because I feel like there's 3 giant question marks. There's a lot of question marks, but there's 3 main questions, and that's QB, GM, head coach. Let's start off with the quarterback. Now, I think the chronological order we should go in is, okay, GM is the first, and then head coach, and then we're going to find about Aaron Rodgers, because that's kind of the order. Woody Johnson said this past weekend with Brian Kaz that the decision will be made by the head coach and the GM of Aaron Rodgers' future. But what's your guys' gut feeling? Will Aaron Rodgers be back? Is he going to be the quarterback of 2025 or not? And if he's not, who's your option? Jake, I'll start off with you. What's your instincts? Is Aaron done as a New York Jet?
I really think it is contingent on who the coach is, because I think certain coaches would want Rodgers back. Certain ones would probably want to move on. So I'll say it's more likely than not that he is not here because a new regime is going to want to start over. But I don't know if that's necessarily the right move. Like, where are the Jets finding a quarterback that you're telling me is better than what Aaron Rodgers can give them, especially with him being open to taking a pay cut to mitigate future dead cap concerns? And if you get Rodgers back, you get Devontae back. And without Devontae, you just have Garrett Wilson in that receiver room. Lazard stinks. He won't be here. Xavier Gibson's just a guy. I mean, Malachi Corley, all the hype about him, he couldn't even get on the field this year. So, I hope Rodgers is back as a Jet fan because I think he gives you the best chance to compete next year. But I think it really is contingent on the coach. So I'll say no to answer the question, but I hope I'm wrong and he is back.
So you hope Aaron Rodgers is back. If you were hired, Jake Asman, breaking news, the new GM of the New York Jets, you're bringing Aaron back?
I'd bring him back as long as I have a couple stipulations. 1, pay cut, which he has said he would do. 2, modern offensive scheme. I mean, the days of Aaron being able to call his shots and run whatever offense he wants, I just don't think that's a winning formula. I mean, they didn't have a single game this year where Breece Hall, I think, had the ball 20 carries or more in a game. Like, this offense has pieces on it. They have a good running back room. As I think it was either Ryan or Matt brought up, the offensive linemen under contract that are young and should be here next year. They should be a team that could be more balanced and could run the football and not asking Aaron Rodgers to be superhuman. Like, ask Aaron Rodgers to be a game manager next year. And at age 41, going on 42, that's fine if the defense is fixed and they get a real coaching staff. But it just, as I talk it out, there's a lot of things that have to happen to see Rodgers here. And that's why I think, gun to my head, he's probably not. But I hope I'm wrong.
Shout out to Jet Life saying my faves. Appreciate you, Jet Life. Appreciate everybody tuning into the show right now. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe here to the AFC's Roundtable. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers and will he be back? Matt O'Leary, Aaron Rodgers. Now I want to ask you this, Matt. If I told you in August that Aaron Rodgers is putting up 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, how many wins do you think we'll finish with? I know it's hollow stats, but still.
Like 10?
Right? But no, we had 5 wins instead, by the way. 5. So where is your head at with Aaron Rodgers, Matt? Because statistically, he wasn't awful, but does it pass the eye test? Do you think he's the best option? So what's your gut instinct that you think the Jets will do, and what would you do? Because I know that you came out with your fixing the New York Jets video.
Yeah, so I don't think he's back. And I get why people want him back. Like, I'm not someone who's totally against the idea and like it would be the worst decision ever. I think just the reading the tea leaves a little bit, I think point to him not being back. I actually think there's a good chance that he retires. Just that last game, the vibes of that whole game felt like it was the last time that he was doing it. He saved, the Breece Hall touchdown, the ball, the 500 one, obviously, and then Devontae kept his ball from Aaron Rodgers. It was just kind of the vibe that I felt. But I think a new coach is going to want to come in here and kind of reset it a little bit. And, I'm not saying that they have to come in and tank next year and be horrible, but I think it's probably Tyrod Taylor, another veteran quarterback, and Jordan Travis as the quarterback room. And my hope is that they get away from this year. I thought it was way too heavy of a pass-happy offense. Aaron Rodgers was second in passing attempts. So I think that's a big reason why we saw the yardage where it was. They also threw the ball a lot in the red zone. So I think that's another reason why some of the touchdown numbers were a little bit higher. And look, at surface level, 28 touchdowns is great. And he did have a better season than we are used to seeing. But is it enough? I'm not sure if that is enough for this team. So I think they are likely to move on and use 2025 as a bit of a transition year and a competitive retool almost, if you will.
A competitive retool. So in your scenario, do you have the Jets drafting a quarterback this year to compete with Jordan Travis behind a veteran, or this quarterback class isn't really up your...
Yeah, I don't think this is the quarterback class to do that, unfortunately. I mean, everyone was kind of hoping that maybe Drew L.R. would change his mind, and then he went out and had a brutal performance last night for Penn State. So I think that dream's dead anyway of him coming out. But after the top 2 guys who I think are going to go number 1 and number 2 overall, especially after the news today, with the Browns quarterback, Deshaun Watson. It gets rough after that. I'm not the biggest Jalen Milroe guy. He's a great athlete, but he needs a lot of work with his passing game and some of his accuracy concerns. So that's not a direction that I'd really love for the Jets to go. Unfortunately, I just don't think this is the class for it. In my video, I kind of made the comparison because, especially with Tyrod here, I think you got to hope for like a 2017 Bills season where they, sneak into the playoffs, end a drought, and then have to eventually trade up and get their guy in the next year's draft.
Interesting. On the Aaron Rodgers discussion, PGZ, who I think this is maybe his 15th or 16th consecutive super chat, saying this exact thing on Roundtable. Aaron Rodgers is cheeks. He will never not stop. He will continuously saying it. PGZ, I appreciate your consistency and your dedication to remind me that Aaron Rodgers is cheeks in your opinion, but he's not cheeks, okay? And I will make sure you are aware of that. He ain't cheeks, okay? Respect the greats. Ryan, will Aaron Rodgers be back? If not, where do you think the Jets will go at the quarterback position next year?
So I'm kind of happy whichever way they decide to go with the quarterback position. If Rodgers wants to come back, cool. I'm down with it. If he wants to retire, I think that's all right. I do kind of fall in line with Matt. I do think it felt very much like his last game, the tears in the locker room, holding on to the game balls and whatnot. He had 4 touchdowns in that final game. I think that's a good way to leave off. Like, oh man, even in his last game, after an Achilles tear, he throws 4 touchdowns. I think there's some nice storylines to that. As far as where do I think the Jets ultimately end up going, I think, like Matt said, it's going to be some sort of veteran quarterback along with Tyrod Taylor and along with Jordan Travis, kind of competing and seeing who could win it out in camp. As to who that could be, I think it's anyone's guess. It could be I don't think it's going to be a high expensive one. Like, I don't think it's going to be like a Kirk Cousins or, a trade for any kind of like major name short of like JJ becoming available, which I don't see happening. But I think Fields, I think, Winston, I guess we're not getting Cohen, but that would have been like Trask, maybe, someone lower end coming in and just competing. And I do think it would be Travis versus that quarterback, and Tyrod would kind of be the backup in a sense, unless both quarterbacks really stunk. But I don't see them going drafting a quarterback this year at all.
Quick hitter, because I have my own opinion on this specific quarterback, and I'm curious to get your thoughts. Yes or no to this specific free agent quarterback to the Jets? Justin Fields. Jake.
Yes, if Tyrod Taylor is still on the team, and I'd have a quarterback competition between the two of them, assuming Rodgers is gone. That'd be probably my ideal scenario. So yeah, I'm in on Justin Fields.
Matt?
I'm going to say no, but not the reason why you think. Not because I don't want him, but I think the Jets are going to be priced out of Justin Fields. I think a team like the Giants or the Raiders, who are two very quarterback needy teams that are outside of the top 2 in the draft, might get into a little bit of a bidding war, because I do think he's probably the best available free agent option, assuming Sam Darnold is staying in Minnesota. So I think no, because they'll be priced out of it.
You think he's going to get a big, what type of market do you think he's going to have?
Like 15 million, something like that. 15 to 20 million.
Ryan, you in or out on Fields? Well, you said you're in before as an option, so.
Yeah, I'm in on Fields. I don't think he's going to get as much as Matt says, but I do think, there'll be desire. He'll be the most desirable quarterback, right? He can be that Geno Smith. He can be that, insert whatever quarterback you want that has success in a second stint on a new team or whatever. He's young enough to be, a franchise quarterback if he turns it around. I think relationships are really going to matter when it comes to Justin Fields. I think maybe the relationships with Garrett Wilson and Jeremy Ruckert might bode well. The team that the Jets have is just better than the Giants. It's better than the Raiders. So I think he may feel like a 1-year cheaper contract with us might parlay that into a longer term good contract, whether it's with the Jets or with another team. So I'm in on Fields. I think Tyrod Taylor's here, and I do think they compete. And, I think at the very least, I think you're getting a really high character guy in Fields and someone that's really gritty. And I feel like that's a nice change from kind of where Rodgers was, because there's a little prickliness to Rodgers that I do think caused not a rift in the locker room, but definitely kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. And even though Fields is not half the quarterback that Rodgers is, I think it would be entertaining. And I think Brees would do well. I think Braylon would do well. I think it'd be more of a run-focused team in that regard.
Yeah, I definitely will say Justin Fields, there's an opportunity for him to come to the Jets. And I'll be first to just say, like, I want nothing to do with Justin Fields personally. I just like, when it comes to the options, he's definitely like one of those guys you look at the free agent market where, okay, he fits the timeline of the Jets, giving someone a 1-year deal, try to figure himself out with the brand new coaching staff. Maybe we find lightning in a bottle like Baker in Tampa, Geno with Seattle, Sam in Minnesota. But I just was never really a fan of Fields personally, even pre-draft. Like, I just don't see any qualities from a passer that I like, that I feel I can develop. I could be dead wrong. If the Jets sign him, I'd be rooting for him, of course, but I feel like there's other options, and Justin Fields would be a bridge guy. I just don't really see anything that I like out of Justin Fields' game from a passer perspective, outside of his mobility and his athleticism. And what he did in Pittsburgh was really phenomenal, but Pittsburgh also like wins with Kenny Pickett, last year, and Russell Wilson, who's still like, they fell back down to earth. So I'm kind of out on Justin Fields, I'll be honest. But if they do bring him in, I'll have to be okay with it.
You said there was another quarterback that you had in mind. There's other options. Is there someone that you do have in mind right now?
No. That's the problem. Like, you started listing them off, I'm like, damn, we're doomed, bro. There's nobody.
Jameis, baby.
In terms of veterans,
James is fun.
I do have a draft crush, and like I'm in but I feel like that is unrealistic. I don't think the Jets are actually going to draft him. And I feel like I have to do more research, and I'm going to see him in person when I go to the Senior Bowl. Dart. Yeah. Jackson Dart, I had on my radar for like a few months now, and now he's kind of like getting out there and everyone's talking about him. I feel like he's going to get some momentum heading into the NFL draft, combine and stuff, as the more the draft process goes. And you know how quarterback prospects go. You start attaching yourself to someone, and then we're like, you're an idiot. This guy sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it goes. And I remember last year, not to go down this path, but I mentioned on a video once, and I tweeted out once, should the New York Jets consider drafting Bo Nix? And I got ripped to shreds. Not to say if Bo Nix got drafted here, he'd be good. Knowing us, we fail quarterbacks. Sean Payton is a big reason why he's successful here. But I mentioned that last year. I remember watching Bo Nix in Oregon. I'm like, wait, this kid actually, I actually like his tape. And then I got ripped to shreds. So who knows if I'm right or wrong on Jackson Dart. I think there's a low percentage chance that he ends up being a Jet. But Jackson Dart is a guy I feel like has some potential out of this weak quarterback class. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I think a lot of guys are going to start getting not overdrafted, but like last year, if I had told you Penix and Nix and JJ were going to go top 12 in the draft, I don't think a lot of people would like believe that. A lot of people consider them day 2 picks. So I think you'll see Milroe elevate into the first round. I think Dart could definitely go into the first round. Both guys are going to be at the Senior Bowl, so I think that's going to help them a lot.
Exactly. Bo Nix was a late riser. I remember like he was mocked like 2nd, 3rd round. And then Jordan Travis was a great feeling for me personally because he was my favorite quarterback in the draft class that I wanted the Jets to draft. Do you guys feel like Jordan Travis, like where are you guys at with Jordan Travis? We haven't seen anything of him. Like, Jake, when you think of Jordan Travis, you think he's just a potential long-term backup that you're excited about? Or do you think he actually has a chance to be the guy, or you just have no idea?
I have really no strong thoughts on Jordan Travis in regards to like banking on him to be anything. Like if he ends up being a long-term backup, I think that's a win. I mean, this guy was a 5th round pick by a regime that is all, out of town. They've been fired. So I don't think you could count on him for anything. Like you could tell me Jordan Travis is the Jets' 3rd stringer this year, and I'd say, okay, that makes sense. You could tell me he gets cut in training camp, and I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. Like I don't really have any expectations for him. And people say, well, if he didn't get hurt, he would have been a 1st-round pick. No, he would have been maybe a 3rd or a 4th rounder, they said. So the injury cost him a round. And his agent was telling everyone in the pre-draft process he'd be healthy for training camp. Well, not only was he never healthy for training camp, he had, according to Jeff Ulbrich, setbacks during the recovery this season, and he has yet to have an NFL practice. So it's a great story if he ever comes back and is a backup in the NFL. So I have no expectations for him. I mean, if he's the next Brock Purdy someday, awesome. I just doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like the way I look at it, as much as I love Jordan Travis and I was happy we drafted him, I still want the Jets to draft a quarterback this year to compete with Jordan Travis. I don't want Jordan Travis to be the only young guy for this upcoming year. I would prefer them to draft somebody and have Jordan Travis and a rookie compete for number 2 behind said veteran, whether it's Rodgers, Tyrod, or another guy we bring in. That's kind of my quarterback room I didn't want to call it a dream because it's not really that.
What is there a round sort of that you would like to see them maybe pull the trigger, like a second or third round guy? Or are you looking later and just kind of dart throw it?
Dart throw it. Throw the dart at dart. You know what I mean? I mean, we'll see. I feel like Jackson Dart has the potential to skyrocket up boards. Now, I'm not going to go as far as a first-round pick, but you never know. If he's available in the second round, I think that's a good opportunity. I know he's getting mocked in the third round right now, but I think this is a guy that's going to start, especially with, like you said, Ryan, the quarterback class is so weak that there's going to be some overdrafting. And, like, throw a dart at the quarterback position, even if his name's Dart, every year. I mean, draft the quarterback every freaking year until we find our guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I look at the quarterback position. I need a franchise quarterback to be excited about. We've been starving for one forever. So I'd be on board to draft one, even at 7, if somebody, like, all of a sudden you feel like, okay, this guy looks great. But as of right now, I don't see the Jets drafting a quarterback at number 7 at all. If you talk about who the Jets are targeting in the first round, quarterback, there's no one out there that I feel like is good unless the top 2 guys fall to us, which I don't see happening. So there's a long way to go. We got to figure out who the heck the head coach and GM is before that, which is a great segue into the next topic. So do you guys want to go to the GM or the head coaching first? What do you guys think? Huh?
Let's go GM and then work our way
Yeah,
down.
that hire should happen first, right? GM first, then
Unless it's Mike Vrabel.
I think Vrabel's the only one that would be reversed.
They're Rooney Rule compliant now after yesterday for the GM because they spoke to Ray Farmer in person. And now, assuming the Loxley interview, the Maryland coach was in person today too, they're Rooney Rule compliant for head coach too. So in theory, they could now actually hire a GM or a coach at any point.
Now that brings me up a good question that I have for you, Jake. Do you see the Jets potentially hiring somebody without interviewing everybody they have on the list? Because we see that, I mean, the Jets are interviewing the entire planet. Like, if they find their guy in the interview process, do you think that they'll even hire their guys without going through with some interviews they have scheduled?
Only Gruden, I think they'd hire and then just say screw the rest of the process. If he's like, I want to be
Vrabel?
the coach. Sorry, I meant they haven't requested Gruden. I had him on my mind. I meant Vrabel. Yeah, Vrabel. Vrabel would be the
Gruden Grinder.
Yeah, man. Spider 2 wide banana. No, Vrabel would be the only one, I think, as you guys pointed out, that hire head coach first and then probably have a huge say in picking the GM you'd want to work with.
So, Matt, who are your favorites for the GM? Give me your top 3 guys that you feel like would be the best for the job.
So for me, can I give you 4? Because I
Give me 5 now.
Okay, well, no, I don't have a 5th. There's 4 guys that I like, and the rest are kind of to me. And in no particular order, it's Mike Borgonzi, Greenberg from the Bucks, Spielman from the Lions, who was a late add to the list, and then Dimitrov after that. And I have different reasonings for each one. Dimitrov, I think, did a pretty good job in Atlanta. They probably should have won the Super Bowl in whatever that was, 2016 or 17. And I like that he had 2 competitive windows, like early on in Matt Ryan's career, and then was able to build it back up later on. For Bergonzi, I love just kind of that he worked his way up through the Chiefs. It's not just that it's someone from that organization. It's, he did the college scouting side and then was, pro side and then player personnel and then VP of football ops and, all the way up the ladder there. Greenberg, I like what Tampa Bay did post Brady. I'm impressed that they were able to keep as competitive as they've been after that Tom Brady era. And for me, Spielman, I mean, he played a major role in turning the Lions around. He was essentially the one who hired the GM and head coach that took a franchise out of huge, long days of darkness, which kind of feels like where the Jets are right now. So those are the 4 names that jump out to me that I'd be most excited about the Jets hiring.
Now, there's a name that you left off your list that I'm intrigued about. Not my favorite, but reading up on his resume, I was impressed, and that's Alec Hallaby. I feel like that's a potential name to look after personally. 38 years old, entered the Philadelphia Eagles organization as an intern in 2007, graduate from Harvard, worked his way up all the way the ranks of Philadelphia, working underneath Howie. Now, do we have some PTSD of Joe Douglas coming from Philly? Is that, that's a guy I also like, and I also agree with everything you said. And there's different qualities to these GMs, right? Some of them are business savvy. Some of them come from scouting. Some of them, which guy do we need? An experienced guy or non-experienced guy? So, Ryan, where are you at with the GM search? Who are your top candidates for the job?
So the 4 that Matt listed are the 4 that would be my favorites for the job. I would say Spielman is my favorite if you could get him as like president of football operations. I think the resume of GM might be a little lacking, but I think, like Matt said, critical component. One of my good buddies who's a Lions YouTuber, Let's Talk Lions, huge fan of Spielman. When he heard we were going to interview him, he's like, you guys need to sign this guy. So if we get him as like a president, I think that's really cool. I'll throw another name on there. Not that I don't want him as GM, but I think it's worth the interview to kind of gather information. And that would be Ryan Grigson. I don't want him as GM, but I think trying to get as much information on Brian Flores as possible is critical if you want to make that type of hiring. Thomas Dimitroff, his time in New England overlapped with Brian Flores as well. So you can gather some information through that. I do like Dimitroff a lot for the same reasons Matt said, built up the team twice. Greenberg, the Bucs organization, two nice little bursts there with Tom Brady and then post Tom Brady. Borgonzi, for how long he's been with the Chiefs, is just really, really impressive. So those would be the names I really like on that list. I think if I were to pick one, I think Dimitroff or Spielman. Spielman is actually the brother of Rick Spielman, the guy that's helping us with the 33rd team. So I could see either one of those guys.
Didn't realize that. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Matt, were you triggered when he said Ryan Grigson? Because I know you're a big Ryan Grigson fan.
No, I'm not a Ryan Grigson guy. I am very nervous about a guy who his poor drafting and roster building led to the retirement of a 29-year-old stud quarterback. Like that really scares me. But again, people point to the record, and the record is really good. You can't deny that, but that just scares the life out of me. I wouldn't sign up for Grigson personally.
I know you wouldn't. That was funny. Jake, who's your favorites for GM, man? Out of all these guys, do you have a prediction who will be in your favorites?
I like Dimitroff among the guys they spoke to with previous GMing experience. I think he's a smart guy. He's hired 2 coaches that went to the playoffs, took over a Falcons situation where Michael Vick was coming off his scandal and then drafted Matt Ryan, went to the playoffs, went to a Super Bowl, should have a ring on his finger if the Falcons didn't have the biggest choke job in professional sports history. So I think he's a good GM, smart guy. I interviewed him in person about a year ago, and I was really impressed. He's been with he runs a sports analytics company the last couple of years, so he has a scouting background, but is kind of up with the new age of where the sport is headed. So he intrigues me. And then among the guys who don't have GM experience that they've spoken to, Mike Borgonzi from the Chiefs is the other name that I'm intrigued by. 16 years there, started at the bottom, has done a bunch of different roles. So there's one guy with previous experience I like, and one guy that if you are going to hire the first-time GM, I like too. So those are the 2 names that stand out so far.
Now, why are they interviewing Jim Nagy? I mean, I know he's the executive of the Senior Bowl, but I know Phil Savage came from the Senior Bowl too, who's our interim GM. I know that they're interviewing everybody, but like Jim Nagy's a name that I feel like, what are his qualities that deserves to be a GM in the NFL?
It's information gathering. That's what a lot of this is, I think, because if you're in the Senior Bowl, you have connections with every single team, every single agent, lots of the players in the collegiate ranks. I think they're doing some data gathering. I think there's a little bit of that with the head coaching search as well. Nagy's an interesting name, but I don't think he'll really be in consideration.
And there's also a popular name that none of you guys put in your favorites, and I say popular just because he's a big name, and that's Louis Riddick. ESPN analyst, and a lot of people, even Deion Sanders, are saying, one thing I do know about Woody is he's infiltrated. He gets impacted by the media. There's pressure externally, and he folds. Does Stephen A. Smith and Deion Sanders, is Brick Johnson showing Woody, Brick, Dad, look, see, Stephen A. wants us to get him. You got to hire him. Woody's like, oh, Deion Sanders says that? Okay, I'll do it. So, is Louis Riddick scare you guys? I mean, he's obviously have no experience scouting throughout his entire career in the NFL, went to ESPN, been there for like 12 plus years. Does Louis Riddick, if he's the guy, would you be very upset, or would you be like, all right, let's see?
Wasn't Riddick a scout? Yeah, he was a pro scout for the Redskins.
Yeah, he was a scout for a while before
Eagles.
He went to ESPN.
I don't want anyone who goes at Jets fans on Twitter.
Yeah.
Can you imagine our GM to be as active on Twitter? Like, imagine Joe Douglas went back at Jets on Twitter. Oh, that would be funny. Louis Riddick, Jets GM, attacking at JetsFan24589. That would be insane. Jake, Louis Riddick, You didn't mention him as your favorite. Why?
Yeah, no thanks. I'm good on Lewis Riddick. I mean, look, I don't have a problem with them talking to him. Other teams have as well. But if he truly wants to get back in as a GM, he should go and work for an NFL team again. He hasn't worked in the NFL in over a decade. So, yeah, just because you're on TV and you can give takes, that's great. But I'm not choosing Lewis Riddick over some of the other guys who have actually done the job before or guys who are currently with teams right now.
And that's why I'm wondering why you haven't got requested to be interviewed, Jake. I mean, you're on ESPN Radio. You have a YouTube. You give opinions. So, like, why have they not reached out to you?
Look, the only job that I want is director of common sense. Where basically, before we do anything major, you run it by me as a diehard fan and say, hey, does this make sense? How will this age? And I'll give you some examples. When the Jets go out there after they finally get Hassan Reddick in the building and post videos of him coming out on the practice field, I would say probably not a good idea because the team's 2-5 and the fan base is pissed and Reddick's kind of the face of this season being a mess. Let's maybe not show him running out there on the practice field. I think I could add a lot in that role. I know Green Bean wants to be the GM. I just want to be the director of common sense. Any big decision, you run it by me, and I can give you the pulse of, hey, this is not going to age well with the fans. Hey, Woody, don't use thinking is overrated as a line in your press conference. That's not going to help. Like, I just would love to be the director of common sense. That's all I want.
Wow. I think that's a great role. And Hassan Reddick has officially became my least favorite Jet of all time. He was, before this process, the middle of the process, he didn't even get a sack. So, yeah, I think that would have been a good idea to not post that. I absolutely agree with that. Lissell with the super chat. I'm the odd man out, but I want us to get a QB at first or second round. At the latest, I just think if you throw a dart at this QB class, go out and get the best of the bunch.
Jackson Dart, second round. Boom.
I see what you did there, Lissell. Throw a dart in the second round at Jackson Dart. I mean, come on now. Just because he went to the same high school as Zach Wilson doesn't mean he's going to be a bust like Zach Wilson.
He went to the same high school as Zach Wilson?
Uh-oh, Jake's done. He's off of him.
I didn't know that.
This is new information. Undrafted.
Oh, God. Well, that's why people are hesitant of him. They find that out.
He's off my board.
He also wears a headband, right? Like, this is, I don't know, Richie.
I don't know. Zach Wilson had to crawl so Jackson Dart can fly. You know what I mean?
I have a concern if he rises too much, which I agree, Richie. I think he's going to. I think the back end of the first round, you got the Rams, you got Detroit, teams that, could take a quarterback late. I don't want to have to move into the first because I think that's going to give up the 26th first. And I have a real good hunch that's going to be like inside the top 10. I don't want to give up that kind of pick for a dart throw.
I'm down to throw a dart. Come on now. Yeti tells us only 42 likes. Come on. Look at this panel. We should get 100 likes within the next minute. All right. Hit the like button right now, folks. We really do appreciate you guys tuning into the Jets Roundtable. We're live on Fridays at 1 p.m. EST. Thank you all so much for tuning into the show. Now, this weekend, the Jets aren't part of the fun. We're not. When will we be? When? Never. I don't know when. No, don't say never, please. I can't deal with that. But I want to get your guys' thoughts of the odds on BetUS Sportsbook, the #1 online sportsbook, folks. That's powered by Roundtable Sports. We have the Chargers and Texans coming up first. 3-point favorites on the road is the Chargers, okay? The Ravens, 10-point favorites at home, I think is a crazy line. Now, I have the Ravens winning, but 10-point favorites against your division rival in the playoffs, I think is ridiculous. I like the Steelers plus 10, but the Ravens winning that game. But the game I want to focus on the most is the team in our division. Since this is the AFC East Roundtable, the Buffalo Bills won our division. The only team representing the AFC East in the division. Dolphins, you suck just like us. So where are you guys at with this Buffalo Bills game? They're 9.5-point favorites. If you guys want to check out BetUS, use the code YouTube150 when you sign up to get a 150% bonus on your first deposit. That's up to $2,000. So are you guys taking the Bills points at -9.5? Do you think they're going to blow out the Broncos, or is there an upset waiting to happen? Ryan, I'll start off with you. Bills, Broncos.
Did you not see what the Broncos did to the Chiefs this past week? They're absolutely going to knock the doors off the Bills. I think you should totally throw money on the over and the points for the Broncos. No, I think the Bills will win this game. I don't think it's going to be 9 points, but I do think they win.
How about you, Matt? Bills getting the W over the Broncos? You're predicting the upset.
I'm going to take the Bills with the points here. I know it's a big number, but I think we're going to get a lot of people going, well, I mean, they were firing on all cylinders against, and granted, it's the Chiefs backup, but the offense has looked good for them after the bye week. But I don't know, something about going to Buffalo in that 1:00 slate. This feels like a game that turns into a blowout in the second half. So I think the Bills win by 14 to 17 points.
Damn. How about you, Jake? Bills winning this game and covering or what?
I hope not, but I'm going to try and reverse jinx them. So if we all are on the Bills side, maybe Denver could go full Rex Ryan, Mark Sanchez, 2009 to go get a road playoff win this weekend. So go Broncos.
Wow. Can you imagine that? And I think this game is going to be the Broncos winning at halftime, and then the Bills come back in the second half and kind of just click. That's my prediction of this game. So we shall see. And keep it on the Bills topic. I don't know your guys' opinions on this. Now, I have to deal with Dan Mitchell and TD every day about this MVP race. Do you guys, who is your MVP? I'll just start off with that. Who do you, if you had the vote, take your bias away if you can. Objectively, it's obviously between two guys, in my opinion. Who do you think deserves to be the MVP this season? Jake, I'll start with you.
I like Lamar. I think he does more for that team. I do. I think it's close. If you told me Allen won it, I think he's still probably the betting favorite right now. I'd be cool with it. But I did see today the AP first team All Pro teams came out, and Lamar was the quarterback, not Allen. So I wonder if that is a sign of where the vote could be going. When I watch both, I think Lamar does more for his team's success than Allen does. More difficult schedule for Lamar as well. So it's close, but give me Lamar Jackson.
Keep in mind, we got a heavy amount of Bills fans in the chat that's ready to pounce on you. Matt, are you Team Lamar or Team Josh for MVP?
Slightly to Lamar. If Josh Allen won it, I wouldn't be like upset and say like this is some sort of travesty. Lamar got robbed. Like I do think it is really close, but to me, I just think when you look at the numbers, Lamar had the better season. The better passer rating. He's the first team All Pro. I think that matters in the race, and I think he wins another one. So what is that, 3 now for Lamar? It would be. That'd be pretty impressive.
Wow. Ryan, MVP.
Yeah, I think from a statistical standpoint, Lamar, should be the MVP. I think from a narrative perspective, coming into the year, the Bills were not supposed to be the team they wound up being. It was supposed to be a heavy cap hit year for Josh. They lost Stefan Diggs. So I think the storyline is more impressive with Josh up until like the final month of the season, where it kind of seemed like they were coasting. Obviously after locking up the division and whatnot. I wouldn't mind either way. I think Lamar should get it though.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying Lamar all season. Dan's been upset about it. I predicted the Ravens come back and win the division, but Josh Allen is still the betting favorite, and I think there's a voting fatigue. And they're like, but Lamar already has 2, so let's give Josh 1, right? I mean, listen, not to take anything away what Josh Allen did. He did a tremendous job at Buffalo, taking away his playmakers, still leveled it up, but Lamar literally clears them in every single statistic. Every single one. And, but Derrick Henry, I mean, there's a lot of debates you can get into, but I actually think Josh is going to win the award, but I think Lamar deserves to win the award. And me and Bills fans have gotten into little issues here because I have been saying this and they are getting very sensitive. But hey, it's all right. You got to deal with it. Go win in the playoffs. Go in the playoffs. Super Bowl picks around the table, please. Ooh, Super Bowl picks. Jake, who you got in this year's Super Bowl?
Lions, Chiefs win.
Damn.
I hate you, Jake.
I know. Is that yours?
Fuck the Chiefs. I don't want them at all.
Yeah, I don't. Me neither. I'm rooting for the Lions. I'd like to see Darnold win too. If that happens, great. I'd be happy for him. But I don't know. I'm done picking against the Chiefs. I've been trying to do it all year. You look foolish doing it. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I cashed in on the Chiefs last year. Everyone was doubting them, and I put a lot of money on them last year, and I won a lot. And I've never bet that much in my life because I had that much confidence. I don't know if
Money
I feel
bags,
the same way.
Richie, baby. Love it.
I don't know if I feel that same way this year, honestly, but we'll see. Matt, who are your Super Bowl picks?
I have the Lions over the Ravens. I think the Lions defense, they're getting a little bit healthier. They had that great performance the last week of the year. I like their path to the Super Bowl from the NFC side, and I'm just so tired of the Chiefs, so I had to pick a different team. And I think the Ravens are set with a great running game and Derrick Henry this year to finally get over the hump and go on a run.
Ryan?
Yeah, I like Lions, Ravens a lot. To be a little different, I guess I'll say Eagles, Ravens. But but I want to see the Lions win it.
I think I may be like the only like person in the world that's not a Chiefs fan that actually like enjoys the Chiefs. Is that weird?
Ugh, I hate
Everyone's
watching
sick of
Patrick
him, and
Mahomes.
I'm
He
like,
gives me so much Tom Brady like whiny bitch vibes that it like pisses me
for
off.
me, this is how I look at it. I hate Tom Brady and the Patriots, and if there was somebody to get over the hump of being better than that dynasty, I'm witnessing it. And if the Jets are out, I'm not. There's no leg in the game for the Jets. So in my opinion, I'm like, let's let the Chiefs keep going as long as the Bills don't and everybody else. Obviously, I want some other teams to get a little bit of the thing here, but I don't know. I feel like their run is generational, and it's been a joy to see. And I know there's a lot of context involved, and other people blame the refs and discredit everything, but I just feel like the job that they've done the last 5 years has been pretty remarkable. I'm not rooting for them this playoffs. I'm rooting for my boy Sam Darnold because they're winning the Super Bowl, baby. Minnesota Vikings. They needed a wake-up call. They needed to be humbled. I'm kidding. I don't know if I actually believe this, but we'll see, man. I think this is actually the year for Baltimore to come out of the conference. I really think that this is the year where the Ravens were pissed off last year when Kansas City came to their house and they lost. And I think this is the year where Baltimore and Lamar Jackson gets to the Super Bowl to take on the Detroit Lions. I think it's going to be Ravens-Lions, and I think it's going to be Chiefs versus Ravens in the championship game in Arrowhead, and Lamar wins that game. And then it's tough to pick between the Ravens and the Lions, but I'm going to give the edge to the Lions. I think this is the year when Detroit wins the Super Bowl. So that's my Super Bowl pick. All right. To finish off the show, we got to get into these head coaching searches real quick, okay? Because this one we can talk for another 3 hours, but we're not going to. Okay, so I wanted to go the same route that we did with the GMs. I want you guys to give me your favorites and the guys you think, a prediction, who you think will be the guy. Jake, who are your top 3 candidates that you want the Jets to hire? And then who is your prediction on who they will hire?
Top 3 candidates: Mike Vrabel, Brian Flores, and probably Aaron Glenn. That'd probably be 3. McCown's there. I'll take Rex over some of the other slappies they've interviewed so far, but Rex is a little further down on my list. And then who do I think they hire? I think they end up hiring Aaron Glenn, but Brian Flores is my choice, assuming they can't get Vrabel. Until Vrabel is actually not the Jet coach, I'm still holding out hope Woody could money whip him and give him his choice of GM, but that feels unlikely. So Flores then moves up for me, but I think they end up hiring Aaron Glenn.
Matt, how about you? Your top candidates and your prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to go 4 again because I can't narrow it down, but I'm going to say Vrabel, Flores, Glenn, and Joe Brady. And I think it's going to be Aaron Glenn that ends up getting hired. I think it'll come down to the Jets and the Saints kind of battling it out. And I think the Jets situation's better than the Saints, so I'll give them the edge.
Interesting. Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, I've got the same list. I think Flores is really interesting, especially since the Jets had so many penalty issues. He was really good as far as discipline goes for the Dolphins, low penalties each of those years. Vrabel, endeared me to his heart when he made Bill Belichick like sparks fly out the ears in the playoffs, and the false start and the delay of game stuff was just a masterclass. Aaron Glenn is where my heart is. Like I listen to Aaron Glenn, and the only reason I don't want him is because he's a first-time head coach from the defensive side of the ball, and that feels maybe like I shouldn't be thinking that way. I would say I'm a little concerned maybe with the coaching staffs that Glenn and Brady could possibly put around themselves. I think you probably need a veteran person on the opposite side of the ball for them to help establish a team or establish a coaching staff around them. So I guess if we assume Vrabel to New England, Flores would be my top pick. And then I would say Glenn is like who I think they'd get.
Now, I agree with everybody's top candidates. Let's talk about some of the candidates that we didn't bring up, right? A popular name amongst Jets fans, I would say, not everyone wants him, but an interesting name that they already interviewed is Spags. Is that somebody you guys would be open to the idea of bringing Steve Spagnuolo over with a potential Mike Borgonzi as the GM, or are you staying away from the defensive coordinator of Kansas City?
I think the timing of the request for Spagnuolo is more interesting than the interview of Spagnuolo.
Yeah, because they interviewed Nagy and Barganzi, and then they requested Spags.
Correct, yeah.
Matt Nagy? Oh. We're all anti-Matt Nagy?
No, I wouldn't say I'm anti Matt Nagy. He's not high on my list, but like if you got Borgonzi,
Matt's anti Matt Nagy.
Yeah,
he had 2 chances with Trubisky and Fields. I know it was only 1 year with Fields, but neither one of them ended up being franchise quarterbacks, and they had to change offensive play callers a bunch when he was there. I know he made the playoffs twice. One of the years he went 8-8, though. He doesn't move me.
Jake, in or out on Matt Nagy and Spags?
More in on Spags than Nagy, to be honest. I like Spags. I like the fact that he's been in the New York market before as a DC and an interim coach with the Giants. His first time around with the Rams, the record's the record. I get it, but that's a while ago, and I'm sure he's learned a lot being around Andy Reid. So I'm more open to him than Nagy. Nagy feels like the Gase 2.0 hire.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's Adam Gase all over again. But you never know. And then a popular name that so many Jets fans want, Rex Ryan.
Sexy Rexy.
Is that happening? Like, what if we look up and we're like, oh my God, they did it? That's one of those things.
I think the situation that you get Rex is Vrabel goes to New England. You have Aaron Glenn goes to the Saints. Maybe Flores doesn't interview well or something along those lines. And then you wind up in this weird situation of other guys not necessarily wanting the job. And then Rex with the bravado and everything is like a Band-Aid coach until they kind of turn it around a little bit. I don't particularly want to have Rex back.
Matt, Rex Ryan, you down for it? Are you all in?
I love Rex Ryan. He was awesome and so much fun. But the last time he was successful was 15 years ago. And he's been out of the game for a long time. And it's hard for me to look past the final 3 or 4 years with the Jets and then the final 2 in Buffalo. I just think we let that era of Jets football stay that way, and let's not backtrack 15 years.
Jake, sexy Rexy. I know I've seen the video. Come on, Jake. Come on.
Yeah,
Preach to the people why Rex Ryan should be hired. And I know that you don't want are desperate for him, but why should you want Rex Ryan? Do you have an idea?
He's higher on my list than some of the other guys like Arthur Smith or Darren Rizzi or, some of the other guys that on the right-hand side of the screen I'm looking at that I'm just like, really? Like, what are we doing here? So Rex has that. I was more open to Rex than some because I was like, okay, well, his son is on the Lions staff on offense. He's an assistant wide receivers coach. Maybe Rex has this innovative plan where he has his staff figured out. He's going to bring an offensive guy with him from that staff. And he truly has learned a lot since he's last been a head coach. But then he did an interview on Monday on ESPN New York, and they essentially asked him about his staff. And it was a big nothing burger answer. He's like, we're going to have the best staff. It's going to take time. But he really didn't say anything that I wanted to hear. And part of my selling point on Rex was, well, I want to hear him out. Maybe he has a really good idea for what his plan would be this go around. So I don't know. Hopefully he saved that answer for the interview. But I don't know. I love Rex. I just don't feel like in my heart of hearts it would end up working. So I just want to basically avoid doing it and then tarnishing the good memories you have of Rex, those 09 and 10 seasons.
Yeah, and congrats on having him on your radio show on ESPN New York, getting that sound bit of Rex, saying that. I mean, listen, the thing about Rex, if the Jets hire him, this is how I look at it, you're not hiring Rex for X and O scheme of defense. He's a defensive-minded guy, but you're not hiring him to build a defense. You're hiring him for, camaraderie and leader and, identity building, and you're hoping that he can get the good coordinators underneath him. I feel like that's the thing you got to look at with Rex. I don't look at him as his defensive wizard because his defensive brain was 15 years ago. So, I don't trust his X and O scheme. It's more like leader of men and, sparking an identity and building a culture. And I'm not even on board with Rex. I'm still iffy on it. So, we'll see. I think there's a long way to go before this coaching search and GM search gets continued. I assume it's going to be the week of Championship Sunday or the week after when we finally see who the Jets bring in. Because Senior Bowl, don't you feel like they got to get their GM so they can go to the Senior Bowl and stuff? We're used to seeing Joe Douglas there and everything. I don't know. They got to hire their guy eventually. But, folks, that's going to wrap up the Jets Roundtable here, live on the AFC's Roundtable. We're going to be live every Friday at 1 p.m. EST. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and check out Jets Talk 24/7, Matt O'Leary, Jake Asman's YouTube channel. You guys know where to find them. Any final words, Jake, before we wrap it up?
Woody Johnson, please get these hires right. Please. That's it. Please.
Really, man. Our whole lives depend on it. Matt?
I think we need to look at each one of these coaches and GM's Madden rating before we could actually make a final decision here.
Dude, damn it. Ryan?
If there's any disgruntled employees within the Jets organization that want to leak out Woody Johnson's emails, please do it. By all means. Let's see if we can Dan Snyder him.
Get him out. Get him out. Well, that's going to wrap up the show here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We have another super chat. Then trade back, get draft capital for next year. Yeah, we didn't really talk NFL draft in this show. We'll maybe talk about more draft stuff next week just because there's so much regarding the coach and GM search. And I want to see who our coach and GM search really is before we start diving deep into the NFL draft. Lascelles, thank you for the super chat. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring the show. Peace and love to everybody in the chat, and enjoy Super Wild Card Weekend. Go Broncos. Peace, guys.